everybody. Hey guys, welcome to Quarantine with Kim. Tea with the talent, and the amazing talent today is the amazing Hanelle Harris. Now, Sis is coming out on Neon on November 19, and you've probably already heard all the hype. Now it's going to be there for you, and very excitingly, I have the amazing Hanelle here because they have just got the funding. Everything's going ahead to continue on with a season pickup. So Hanelle, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
That's okay. So I guess, first of all, how exciting were you guys? Was this expected news? Were you waiting for ages? COVID? Were you like, I don't know, do we have a show? Do we don't have a show? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I guess we just put all of the good jujus out there and wished for the best and really stuck by our show, and our audience really pulled through for us. You know, our people are so amazing. They just went hard for us online. And so we really hoped that, you know, the funders would see that people wanted to see more Sis. And so, yeah, we just did the best that we could and put our best foot forward and kind of let it be. If we weren't going to get funded, we're still going to try and find the money anyway and make it happen, because we just think there's so much more Sis for people to see. And yeah, hopefully a whole season will be able to do that for us.
That's so exciting. And not only that, I was doing some stalking of you today, and safe stalking, and was looking through, and I was like, wow, this is so exciting to see that it's not only Kiwis that are, you know, experiencing this show, that it does have this global reach. And yeah, I guess, you know, I've not written direct, you know, been in that position that you're in. Yeah, how does that feel? Like, it must feel a bit like euphoric almost, or exciting, or maybe predicted.
I don't know. Our goal is always really just to, you know, represent Polynesian women and their stories and have them feel seen and heard. So anything on top of that is a bonus. Mm-hmm. You know, we've often been asked whether we expected to have a global audience for it, and we really didn't. And we really didn't aim for it to be that at all. We make stories for our people because there's not much out there for us. And, you know, as we know, there's such a lack of visibility for brown women in particular, especially in Aotearoa. So yeah, that's just always been the focus for us. And I think really the euphoric feeling comes from, you know, our spiritual touchstone has always been about representing our women in a way where they just feel seen and heard. And so I think the euphoria comes from the people we made it for, feeling that sense of pride that they finally have, you know, a comedy show or a TV series that's about them and reflects their lived human experiences and has characters that they relate to. So yeah, that's probably my moment of euphoria with the whole thing.
And do you feel that, and speak to this as much or as little as it pertains to you, do you feel a sense of responsibility that maybe sometimes overcomes that joy, that maybe a pressure to do that because you, with your amazing talents, are capable of doing what perhaps some other people maybe don't have, those writing or those comedic bones and stuff? Is there a feeling of responsibility in that feels like pressure to you, or is that a joy and a delight?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of it really. I think that duty to be of service to our people in our communities is pretty much always the overriding thing, especially because we kind of feel like if we stuff it up, then we probably stuff it up for, you know, the people that will try and make something after us. And so the moments of joys are literally flickers. Sure. And the actual overall cloud is just this feeling of responsibility, which comes with a heaviness and with pressure, but it also comes with a real fire, you know, because what we're doing essentially with Sis is we're trying to seek equality and justice. And, you know, when you're fighting for something that can give you purpose, and it can give you intention, and it can, as I said, give you a real fire. But then it can also get really heavy, and it can feel really lonely, and then you just get the pressure of just wanting to just do a good job of it and make sure that you leave space for the others that will come after you.
Yeah, you're very articulate. I'm such a big fan of you and what you guys created. It's so awesome. And yeah, I guess with that pressure, like maybe perhaps a lot of people might not be able to relate to how it pertains to creating a show, but that sense of pressure and responsibility is a really universal feeling. And it feels like from the outside that you handle things with such grace, and you're so articulate and at the same time so vulnerable. Just as a human to human, how do you feel, and how do you handle that? Like, do you have imposter syndrome at any point during it, or do you feel pretty strong?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. I've always got imposter syndrome. I grew up in the far north in a small town called Kaikohe. I went to Decile 1 schooling my whole life. I went to a high school called Northern College, which is dubbed like the worst high school in New Zealand. So I didn't grow up with, a solid education or extracurricular activities like drama or anything like that. So this world was foreign to me. When to start with, I'm the first person in my family to even go to university. So when I went to drama school, that was like a whole fish out of water experience. And, actors are so serious, and
yeah, I know. Yeah.
And they're very like, they love Shakespeare and all of these things. And I was just like, what is Chekhov? I don't know what these plays are. So imposter syndrome for me started very early, and it's still at every point creeps into my work. I internalize a lot of things, like for an example, it took me a long time before I wrote my own things, because I never felt like I was smart enough to write or even run my own writing tables. And so, I would get other people to come in and run my tables, and I'd go, oh, that's not kind of where I want to go with it, but just never backed myself enough to think I was capable enough to do those things.
Out of curiosity, zooming in on that moment, what then changed? Because I suffer from that entirely. Like, I never want to do a project on my own because I need someone to tell me how shit the idea is, because I'm like, oh yeah, like confirm the horrible thoughts that I have of things myself. Yeah. So what flipped then?
Well, I think if it's a story from your own lived experience, or if it's your story, you're probably the best person to tell it. Like, no one sees the world the way that you do. No one has the opinions you do. No one has the tastes that you do if you're a director. And it's very hard, especially in New Zealand, because there's such this big gap between like the very established writers, directors, producers that have made television for so long, and the new voices. And so it's very hard for me as a young Māori woman to find, someone that could co-write something with me, because there aren't many Māori women that write, so really it's just about being like, you are the best person for the job if you're writing your own story, or if you're writing a story that reflects a demographic that's not usually seen on screens. And I think as well, if you look overseas, and you look at some great neon titles such as I May Destroy You by Michaela Cole, or Insecure by Issa Rae, those are very strong central voices. And they just prove what, one person really kind of being the center of the storytelling looks like. And it's very nuanced, and so I think I get really inspired by the fact that I don't have to have, a whole team to write my scripts with me or any of that stuff, so sorry, that probably didn't answer your question very well.
No.
But
well, it does
click on you.
Yeah, and it's probably from trying, right? Like having that, because I guess I read this quote earlier this year. It's like, be brave enough to be bad at something new. And I think I suffer hugely from like perfectionism and being scared that my first attempt at something won't be perfect. And that's a big barrier for me. And I'm sure a lot of people watching would relate. And I guess, yeah, I'm just curious of like what that tipping point from feeling, not to put words in your mouth, not insecure about it, but maybe not backing yourself with that imposter syndrome when you should have, and then how you then transition into going, fuck it, I'll give it a go, or yeah.
I think it's always worth as well, like being really self-aware of what it is you're internalizing, because I think for me, it's fair to say that I didn't come up with the thought in my head that I was not good enough. That's something that was internalized because that's what the industry told me, and it's the certain ways in which you're treated, that as women, we are treated like we can't really do things to a certain level, or we may not be smart enough. On top of it, I'm a young mother, so especially with my last couple of pregnancies, like I held off kind of telling people because people treat you very differently when you're pregnant. They don't consider you for work. All of a sudden they think that you're just totally incapable of doing anything. And, so that's like another layer on top of it as well, is that women aren't capable if their mothers, oh, she's going to have a baby, that rules her out for this and that. And it's like, well, you didn't actually ask me, because I can happily sit on a writer's table. That's not going to put me into labor at 6 months. I can sit on a writer's table, but these are very real ways in which women are discriminated against. And then, when we talk about intersectionality, we talk about racism, and we talk about the fact that brown people are often kept away from those opportunities. So actually, potentially, to answer your question, the tipping point for me was that I had created these opportunities, these projects, and I'd gone out there and got the funding. So if I wasn't going to employ myself, who was? I literally had to make my own work in order to do the job that I wanted to do, because if I just waited to be invited to the table, I don't think I ever would have got that invite. So I think that's what it is. It's actually saying, if that's what you want to do, if you want to write and direct, and you put all that effort into getting the money and getting your team together, then why don't you just carry on, Yeah. And that's not to say don't work in a vacuum and, you do it yourself and you don't have people read your scripts. I've got amazing people around me, script consultants and EPs, a good friend of mine, Roseanne Liang, who I know you've worked with.
And I love her.
She's incredible. And I think she's just one of the most, technically great writers in this country. And so when I have a script and I want feedback, I will give it to her, and she'll give me notes, and I really take them on because I see her craft and I aspire to her craft. So put good people around you, not to do the work with you, but to help enhance your work. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I look back at some of my earlier stuff and I cringe. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have done this and that. You're not going to get it perfect the first time, but how will you ever get to where you want to go if you won't even take that first step?
Yeah, no, that's very encouraging. And then what a cool thing to like know that was a journey for you, and then watch something like Sis and be like, fuck, this is so good. Like what a great, I know people often talk about their shows like their children, but what a great like child that you've given not only New Zealand but such a wider community. And I guess I kind of wanted to ask you too about how you feel like audiences are changing, because thanks to the work that you've put in, and like Issa Rae and stuff with Insecure, you are putting content out there that is being received by everyone. It's taking away that like stale and pale archaic view that people, because this is what has been gone before you, that's what people want to see. And it's like, actually, that's not true. Do you feel hopeful with audiences and the progression of what they're wanting to see and digest?
You know, I've always felt like audiences are 10 times smarter than what we treat them as.
Yeah, why is
um,
that? Because I've, you know, like I obviously haven't sat in a position as an actor. I don't sit in a position where you see the other side of the fence, and I'm sure it's terrifying. Some instances are, but yeah, why is it that there's a stigma around audiences not being able to handle, or something being different is confusing when it's not? What is that about?
I think the tastemakers just don't really have a clue, to be honest. I think that you know,
Yeah.
they're not plugged into communities. They're not plugged
Mm.
into what people are actually watching. You know, human beings and overall, we're incredibly smart. And, you know, I don't think you have to spell things out or dumb things down for audiences. If anything, I think that they're really craving intellectually stimulating things, especially in, you know, a time like 2020, you know, when people are marching all around the world and fighting for human rights. And these are the types of conversations people want to have because they're the things that actually matter. And so the fact that that's not reflected in our work, I think actually audiences are kind of, you know, they're kind of over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you look at the things that audiences do really love watching, you know, like, is It May Destroy You or I Might Destroy You?
I think it's I might just.
I Might Destroy You.
I was really confident until I started saying it.
It's on Neon, everyone. It's on Neon.
Yeah.
Go watch it. But, you know, I mean, that whole series is around consent.
Yeah.
And I think what she's done is she's been able to reflect back to society things that we're talking about on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been able to take that and make it a central theme of the show. And, you know, and that's what people want to see reflected back to them, different opinions, different worldviews, and different ways of looking and thinking about things. Because ultimately, I believe we're kind of all just trying to be the best versions of ourselves and kind of evolve and mature and all of these things. And good television and good film should do that. So, yeah, I think the people making those decisions that just keep making this very like wish-washy, you know, boring television, I just, you know, it's outdated. It's so outdated. You know, we want the real shit.
Yeah.
People want the real shit.
Was there a I guess like a moment where you felt like you'd arrived? I like this idea of arrival. I've maybe felt it once in my life, and there have been definitely moments that I worked really hard for something and wanted that euphoric feeling of arrival, like I achieved something. But I have depression and anxiety, so normally I'm already on to the next and I have moved on from it. But did you feel a sense of arrival, like maybe when you got into the edit or when it was released and it did well? Was there a sense or a pinpoint during the process of this that felt like an arrival, like a yay?
I work with this incredible editor. His name's Jack Woon, and he's really fast. He is very, very fast. And, you know, we shot our first sketch, which was the Carver scene sketch. We shot it on the Monday, and he had an incredible first cut ready for me to look at on the Wednesday morning before I started shooting. Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't even an assembly. It was like a really good cut. And I just watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. This is going to work. And not only is this going to work, but this is really going to break ground, because I'd never seen anything like it. And not only was it my vision and everything I hoped it would be, it was more. And that's really, you know, that is a true testament to the team on CIS and all of their amazing talents that they brought. And, you know, my job really as the showrunner is to pull together the most talented people to transcend my vision. And that's what I saw when I saw that first cut. I saw my ideas and I saw the script that Maya had written. but then with the actors, their performance, the costume, the set, and just the way it was shot, I was just like, this is it. Like, yeah, this is going to be great, and our people are just going to fucking love it. So yeah, that would probably be the moment for me.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Well, it made me all warm inside. I can feel what that would be like to see it all come together, because I'm sure there are definitely moments of, I mean, like any production is not without its dramas. Something I learned this year from working is that tone is set from the top. And I've been very lucky to work on a couple of different things where that was kind of my takeaway, that tone does have to be set from that leadership position. How is it being in a leadership position and bringing in friends and things as well? Is that a position that comes really naturally to you, as setting that tone and being a leader and creating atmosphere and environment? Because you kind of have to do, at least appear outwardly that you've got it all together whilst you're working with 1,000 pieces. So how do you handle it?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because I feel like of everything I did with Sis, that was the part I was most proud of. And it's because I have produced and made work in the past where I haven't been the best leader. I've been stressed. I've projected my stress onto others. I potentially wasn't the nicest person to work with, to be very honest, because, you go through all these dramas in production. You've got all sorts of things happening. And as the producer, the buck stops with you. And that's a very heavy burden. And, producers are right when they say that production is the most thankless place. It really is. Yeah. The production team puts in so much work, and they don't get the same shine that the rest of us do. Mm-hmm. And so I really take my hat off to our production teams. And you know what? If I'm being really honest, it was through that burnout. It was through the loss of relationship, loss of friendship in particular. I lost some really close friends during those projects. But not only that, I became someone I really didn't like. And when I literally put my life on hold last year to go join the reclamation out at Ihumātao for 6 weeks, mm-hmm. and I stayed in a tent and I was helping with the media team, I really started to, being quite an integral part of kind of the day-to-day out there. I was thinking to myself, how is it that we're in the police presence, we're under enormous stress, I haven't had much sleep, but yet my spirits were so high and I felt so connected to everyone, and we just moved. We could create the most, we talked about throwing a concert, and 48 hours we had a stage and some of the biggest artists in this country. We had 5,000 people there. We literally created a festival in 2 days with no money. And I thought, what is this? Why does this feel not easy, but everything felt achievable? And it was because we were rooted in our mātauranga Māori, in our and if you look at Indigenous people, we're very collective people. And I said, oh my gosh, this is what I'm missing in my work practice. And so I love that you used the word leadership, because that was something I had never acknowledged. I just thought, oh, we're all collaborative, we're collaborative. And what would happen is I would work my ass off. And when I would see people not working to the standard I was working, I'd feel resentful. And what one of my friends out at Ihumātao said to me, because we had this very conversation, and I said, I'm always burnt out from my work. I can't find many people that I actually can work with, because, people let you down and all sorts of things. And she said, yeah, I went through the same thing. And the one thing I've really learnt is you have to accept people for where they're at. And when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't realized that, yes, it's collaboration, but like our hapu or our iwi, there is one leader that unites everybody together behind one vision. And as soon as I gave myself permission to say, I'm the leader of this project, I could also give myself permission to call the shots when I felt like things were unsafe, they weren't healthy. And I put a lot of work into unlearning everything I'd learned and actually trying to indigenize the approach as a producer with Sis. And it's the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done, you know, really trying to recalibrate those frameworks so that everyone on set feels safe, they feel valued, and they feel like they're a part of a collective where they're being held. And, you know, we only just started the very beginnings of that, but, and I've still got so much more to learn, but that's how I want to work moving forward. And actually, quite selfishly, you know, I was 6 months pregnant when we shot Sis. And so just for my own child, my unborn child, I couldn't put myself through the stress that I had been through with other productions. So I had to really commit to, and one thing I often said to everybody is our mental health is number one. Your mental health is the most precious thing, and we need to look after it. And it's my job to provide a space where your mental health feels prioritized. And that means the work has to come second to the people. So I really love that about Sis. It's probably one of my favorite things about the way we run our production.
And interestingly enough, and I'm sure there are many horrible sets that produce good content, but I'm sure in your show where there is a lot of improvising, that does translate to the screen. Everyone feels like they're having a good time. There's room to play, like performances are elevated and awesome. And yeah, as an audience, we receive this idea that even though you're tackling some subjects which can be uncomfortable or triggering for some people in a comedic way, the fact that everyone's performance is fueled with, you know, it feels like coming from a loving environment that's obviously reflected, and back to that tone set at the top. And what a cool journey for you to go through. That I have huge expectations on myself, and I often feel like I have quite low expectations of other people, but yet when they don't deliver on my low expectations, that I do get quite resentful. So that really landed for me when you say that, of, you know, meeting people where they are at, is I have to have more compassion for that a lot. So but it also gives you permission that you don't have to, because I think it's also almost hand in hand with the imposter syndrome thing, because you're not expecting someone to do the other half of it. You're going, okay, I'm actually going to set it and I will delegate, rather than you doing it and then waiting on someone else to do what they're meant to do. And because all of those expectations are usually not spoken about, so you know, everything kind of gets a little bit mucky and lost in translation. Whereas if you're the person that's kind of, I mean, not calling the shots, but holding the vision, you can say, hey guys, this isn't happening, let's get this happening. And you know, you have the freedom to kind of, I almost I liken it to kind of like co-parenting is a lot harder than being a single. I've been a single mother, and let me tell you, that is 10 times more easier than co-parenting, because you're not having to factor in someone else's whole idea of how something should be done. You're like, this is how I need it to be done, because this is the process I need to support the vision. And let's see how we all come together to, and I think also not only the performances, but I think what you feel with Sis is even technically the cinematography, the art direction, everything, people brought their all because they felt valued. And really what it's about is it's about instilling mana into people so that they feel that sense of worth. They feel valued. And when people can work from that place, they're usually going to give you their best. And when I look at Sis, I see everybody's best. I know that no one held back, you know, they were really putting in everything that they could, but not because they had to, because they genuinely, you know, they wanted to, and that's a beautiful thing. That is so beautiful. With your picking it up for a full season, what are you most looking forward to? Maybe not being pregnant and trying to run a show?
Yeah, totally. That is not going to happen. What am I, you know, to be honest, I think just being realistic with COVID. It's really just looking at what's right in front of us on the timeline and just decompartmentalizing it, because it's so hard to think into the future nowadays. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm so scared of how COVID might impact the production, and that wigs me out a bit when I think about it. But I mean, look, we've got some new writers joining us on the table, and really, the vision with Sis is for it to be that one local show for the next couple years that employs young Māori and Pacific writers, directors, producers, talent, and yeah, just kind of developing this training ground that we want to create, so that the people that are on the table, they can get that experience, storylining, because these are people that haven't had the foot in the door with the industry. So hopefully they learn a little bit on our table, and then they go out there and make their own web series, short films, TV series, pilots. I mean, not that that's happening, but that's something I would definitely look forward to, is just seeing more content from new voices.
We're going to make a wild assumption here, but off the back of this being not only a New Zealand hit, but a global phenomenon, are you being bombarded by people with their hands up wanting a seat on that table or to be part of the show? Are you?
Not bombarded, but people have been really
in an encouraging way.
Yeah. No, people have been, and especially some of our tuakana, some of our, industry veterans that have loved the show and have wanted to be a part of it, which is kind of cool, because, we very much still see ourselves as kids over here, kind of just making this thing. I mean, Sis started off as an idea, as a kind of bite-sized web thing, it was never meant to be a TV series. So yeah, it's really cool to bump into people that, I bumped into Dave Farney the other night at the Baby Done premiere. Go watch Baby Done, you guys. Little plug. And Dave Farney is just so legendary, and he was so complimentary of the show and how much he really, really loved it. And I mean, that they paved the way for us, the Naked Samoans. And so there's that beautiful 360 moment that happens where you're getting not confirmation, but you're getting the kind of the baton handed by that generation that really did so much for us. So yeah, we've had a lot of those really cool interactions, but yeah.
That's so cool. Oh, well, I'm a huge fan. I like to wrap up our show with a bit of a toast. Now, you can give this to whoever you would like, and then I will join you with my coffee, giving a toast to that person. And yeah, it can be just a tribute to someone who maybe made an impact in the show or as part of the show, or whoever you want to give it to. But I will kick it off, and I would like to do my toast to you. So you popped up on my radar a little while ago, and when I first saw the snippets of Sis, I think, obviously it's a different story than my own story, but as someone who was really affected living in LA by Black Lives Matter, and it's definitely had a huge pivot on my life and understanding my privilege and my position, and a very humbling thing, and something I should have probably been humbled with many years ago, but I love that it's coming into the forefront. And then to watch something like Sis and just see it packaged in such a digestible way for all audiences to take whatever they can from it was, I mean, you're a visionary and a creative, and it's just such a fucking good show, on top of the fact that it is inspiring so many people to write their stories or create their stories. And yeah, I just think you're a bloody legend, and I don't know if you're good at receiving compliments or not, but
I'm not, but thank you.
But I hope that lands, and I hope, if anyone is sitting there going like, oh, I might check it out, like you should for every reason under the sun, whether it's to step into someone else's shoes, to see a different perspective on a situation, to have a laugh, or just to see some great Kiwi faces and Kiwi content. So my first cheers is to you, which you have to accept. That's the rules of being part of the show. accept the compliments. Yep.
Love it. Thank you.
That's
Thank you so
okay.
much. No, you're so right. I'm so bad at receiving compliments, and I always feel like I'm really rude. Like I'm like, oh, I'm being so rude. But thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I guess my toast goes out to our commissioners at Sky and Neon, Annie Murray and Dana Youngman, because they made the difference for us. You know, you talk about things happening from the top down, and above us were our incredible commissioners. And, you know, what I saw was two women that had fought the same fight I'm fighting in a very different time with probably more restrictions. And now they're at a space in their career where they can make space for young women like me, and they carry that with them and everything they do, and they're just women of integrity. And yeah, so my cheers, my toast is to Annie Murray and Dana Youngman.
Oh, cheers to them. What legends. I love it. Awesome. Thank you, Hanelle. Is there anything else that you wanted to say while you have our captive Neon audience? Is there anything you wanted to add besides that everyone has to watch this on November 19 on Neon if you haven't already seen it on Comedy Central on Sky?
Yeah, not really. Just just because it's a show about brown people, it doesn't mean that it's just for us. I think there's something in it for everyone, as cheesy as it sounds. But just watch the first 3 minutes of it. You know, Tom Sainsbury's in it. He's bloody crack up. What I would say is get behind Kiwi content, because we just have some world-class talent down here, and the likes of Taika, prove that. I think especially for the new voices coming through, when you see new projects like this, or, just something that's different in the industry made by Kiwi content creators, like, get out there and support it. Go see films like Baby Done at the cinemas, pay money, talk about it on social media, because, it's that type of audience interaction that helps us get the funding to do what we do. And just like a final big thank you to our people and our community for getting behind us. We wouldn't be here without you guys. You were so vocal about it online, and we're humbled to be of service to our people. So thank you guys.